Hello, you're watching Breakfast with Charlie State and Naga Munchetti.
Time now is 7:31. Suicide deaths registered in England and Wales last year were the highest in more than 2 decades, according to figures from the Office for National Statistics.
There were 6,069 registered suicides in England and Wales in 2023. It was an increase of more than 7% on the previous years.
Suicide rates for men and women have increased to their highest levels since 1999 and 1994, respectively. Men aged between 45 and 64, the highest risk of suicide. Rates have increased across all age groups since 2022. We're joined now by Mike Palmer, Andy Airy and Tim Owen. You'll know this, it's the three dads. 2 here, 1 there. So you're separated for a moment in time. Very good morning to everyone. Mike, can I first ask you, we talk about statistics and we put a whole load of statistics out just then. I'm sure you think about people. You think about every one of those numbers, those horrifying numbers, is a person, is a family, and the ripples that come from there.
Yeah, 100%, yes, yeah. The figures remain devastatingly high, don't they? You know, what we need to work on bringing them down. But you're quite right, Charlie. You don't just lose that one person. You know, it takes chunks out of the family, friends. There is, call it the ripple effect. It's like a tsunami. You know, sadly, myself, Andy and Tim, we live this life. We see the devastation within our family and friends, you know, from losing our girls. You know, and it's ongoing. It's for life. You know, it's what we can do about it now to make a real difference.
Andy, pick up on that thought about those numbers, because I'm sure, given the work you do and the attention you're trying to draw to suicide, it must be so wearying to hear that.
Well, it's that time of year when the statistics come out for the previous year. ONS produced those statistics. But I've got to say, it's impossible to look at 1 year in isolation. There's so many different variables that can cause the ups and downs in 1 year. You've really got to look at trends over 5 years at least to make sense. But the one thing that is clear is that suicide rates aren't coming down. We seem to be at a place where we've plateaued. And certainly the information that we've been getting is that in that time of plateau over the last few years, rates of young suicide have actually been increasing. So it's unbelievably important to be able to do something to get ahead of the curve, to actually start training and equipping our young people to help themselves and help others.
Tim, you can pick up on that, obviously. You had this meeting with the Prime Minister. All three of you?
No, just us two again.
Just you two, OK. Well, this is actually more pertinent to Tim, actually, then. Tim, you would have sat down, you three would have sat down and chatted about what you want to see done. Because it's all very well meeting the Prime Minister, but if nothing gets done, it's kind of, it almost seems like a token gesture. What did you want out of the meeting? What were you expecting?
Well, it's a long term. You know, we've been campaigning for several years now to have suicide prevention put into the school curriculum. We've seen it delivered in schools to children as young as 11, and they take away how to keep themselves safe. And our whole point is, if this is the biggest risk to our young people, if we train young people in suicide prevention, when they get to our age in their 50s and 60s, they will have had that core foundation of how to keep themselves safe. So these statistics talk about an increase in suicides in kind of older people. Our whole point is, if we train people early in suicide prevention, they'll take those skills, those life skills, through that. So that's what we want. We want a kind of a whole school approach. So not only are we training our young people, we're training the staff, not just the teachers, the staff at schools and their parents. And then that suicide prevention will then bleed through society over the years to come. But we just simply can't ignore these figures. And it's great that the Office of National Statistics take the time to put these figures together. Really powerful figures that allow our political leaders to look at them objectively and say, right, we need to do something about it. We've had a letter from the Secretary of State for Education, Bridget Phillipson, saying she's looking into it. Obviously, there's a draft curriculum out there that was out for public consultation with the last government. The results of that, the public consultation results, are now sitting on the Secretaries of State desk. We just want to see suicide prevention brought into schools to educate our people.
So, Andy, when you met the Prime Minister and these figures were in front of him, I mean, first of all, you say, this is terrible, obviously.
Yep.
Then?
He agrees. I think the message that Sir was putting out on Tuesday when we were there, I know at the start of it was a message of things are going to get worse before they're going to get better. But ultimately, what we were hearing was a message of hope, particularly on the things that we were talking about, because that recognition that something has to be done, he agreed.
What does agreeing mean? Like, what do you see that's tangible?
Well, as Tim said, we've got this RSHE curriculum. The new curriculum has just gone through a review. So, and in that new curriculum, suicide prevention is actually mentioned for the first time in the school curriculum. So, in the old curriculum, the word suicide did not appear anywhere. It didn't appear anywhere. In the current draft, it does appear, but it still sits in the non-compulsory section. It says schools may teach suicide prevention as opposed to schools should teach suicide prevention. So it's nearly there. The one thing we don't know is what the review's brought up. So that's where we're at. So we want to give the biggest encouragement we can to Bridget Phillipson and the team at the DFE to change the curriculum just very slightly to make suicide prevention a compulsory part of the school curriculum. And then we've all got permission to talk about the biggest killer of our young people. We've got to do it because it's the biggest killer of under 35s in the country, the biggest killer of school-aged children. Doing nothing about it is just silly. We've got to do something.
I would say that we've been quite fortunate in a way. We've sort of witnessed what you've been doing right from the beginning. We've witnessed your shorts in all weathers. We've seen that from time to time. But I don't know. One of the things, presumably, it's very hard for you to know is whether any of the work you've done, the profile you've had, and maybe the individuals you've met along the way, whether you have prevented suicide, whether you've been able to affect someone who is in a very bad place. And I suppose that's really what you want to do, isn't it? Have people shared stories with you about, saying, I saw you guys, I've thought about things, please don't wreck the studio.
Sorry. Andy.
Has that happened along the way? Because I know people just talk, don't they? Talk to you guys.
Yeah, but people do talk to us, and we've heard stories, obviously, that I won't divulge, but basically people telling us they have been in crisis. They have tried to take their own lives, but now they're living lives they want to, they're happy. But they've also, said, because of us, they have done this. They phoned PAPYRUS, Hopeline 247, and things like that. But, we'll never really know if we have made any difference. But what we do know is there is far more work that needs to be done. Yeah. And as Andy said, we need to, the Prime Minister talks about building the foundations and investing in our future. Our future are our children.
It's really
and that's where we need to work.
Yeah, Tim, what you clearly the effect you're having is that some people somewhere are having conversations they might not have had otherwise, were it not for some of the profile that you've given to this campaign. You must know that.
Yeah, and I'm just thinking of one story that we had. We had an email. I won't go into too much detail, but it was someone that had seen us on telly, saw a young person about to take a life, intervened, stopped her, took her safely to her parents, and then 6 months on, they'd reached out to PAPYRUS. 6 months on, the family that were affected got in touch with that guy and said she's living a good life now. She's got through that period of crisis. So I know for a fact that, that one person had heard about three dads, decided to say something when he saw something going on and directly saved that person's life. So, yeah, we need to make a difference, all of us as a society, and open up those conversations. And we've had a lot of people doing fundraising, for three dads, all sorts of ways, fundraising for the three dads supported charity PAPYRUS. And these are some weird and wonderful things, but it's making people talk, opening those conversations about suicide prevention across different parts of society, which is so, so, so important, and making them aware of PAPYRUS and its emergency line, Hopeline 247.
Tim, thanks very much. Just a very quick word. If you see someone like you, that person saw someone who's in distress, just one sentence you can say today.
Yes. Yeah.
What do you say
Anything.
to someone?
What's going on?
Yeah.
Right.
Open the conversation. Ask them, what's the matter, basically, and you take it from there. But this is all part of the awareness, isn't it? if you have suicide prevention training, suicide awareness training,
you'd know.
you will.
But it's worth
know what
hearing
to
it
say.
in the absence of that at the moment. It's worth hearing that sound because it could make a massive difference.
Of course, it
Exactly.
could. Yes.
Mike, Andy, Tim, thank you all so much. It's always good to talk to you. Thank you for the work you're doing as well. Keep
you.
going. Thank you.
Thank you.